FlossTube, it's Lisa here, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to upload a very long overdue video that I promised a while ago, and it is my blast from the past video, and it's my trip down memory lane. And I'm sure you would have, if you've looked at my other videos, you would have known that I mentioned that I had a box that I packed when I left my old house, which was more than 5 years ago, that I hadn't opened in a long time, and it was full of stitching stash and completed products and things that I'd started and forgotten about, and yeah, a whole host of different things. So as I've got back into stitching again over the last 6 months, I've been a bit curious as to what's in there, and a few weeks ago I went into the garage, opened the box and got a nice surprise of what was there. It's not as bad as I thought it was, given the fact I've been stitching for more than 20 years, in all fairness. I clearly had more restraint when I was younger than I do now. Probably, yeah, I have no idea why I've changed so much, but yeah, no, there's some lovely things that I'd like to share with you. And as I said previously, I've stitched for just over 20 years now, and a good friend of mine got me into the stitching process. When I met her and obviously befriended her, she was already doing cross stitch, so she was the one who taught me how to do everything, and then kind of got me into it, really. So without further ado, I want to show you what's come out of the box. So I thought the first thing I would show you first was the pieces that I'd completed or started or kind of abandoned. So there's all sorts of madness here. There's some framed pieces which I'll put in for you, and some non-framed pieces. So so the first thing I completed, and to be honest, this is the thing that surprised me the most, because if you'd have asked me what the first thing I stitched was, I wouldn't have said this. I'd completely forgotten this. I knew it was quite a complex piece in terms of starting. Now, when I start a hobby or I start something, I don't start off basic. I just throw myself into it head first, no matter what it is, whether it was music when I was learning the clarinet and the piano, whether it's been jewellery making, card making, obviously the stitching as well. I just go for it, you know, and if I'm going to do something, I might as well do something that I really like. So there's not really much of a learning curve in there for me. It's just the way I am. I've always been like that, and you know, it's the way it goes. So I thought, to be honest, I'd stitched one of the DMC ballerinas, because I remember it being quite an ethereal, pastel-y shade piece, but not this. So I'm just going to lay it out on the board for you and hold it up. It's not framed, and this is something I'm going to remedy actually, because this really should be framed, because it's lovely. So I'm hoping you can actually see this. If I hold it there, you should be able to, if I can get the angle right, maybe. So this was a kit piece, and I couldn't even remember the name of it or what company had designed it at all. So I just googled girl sitting on a chair with a dog cross stitch, and this actually came up. So this is what it is. It's actually a company called Linarte, and it's girls seated with the dog. And you know, and I'm sure you'll appreciate it. It is really nice, and to be fair, I can't believe I've left it sitting in a box, well, actually in a plastic bag, for more than 20 years. So this is something that I'm going to now go away and get filmed professionally, and framed professionally, and get on my wall, because this will go really well with the type of decoration that I have. So that's her. Okay, so first of my frame pieces is the Bride, which is a lavender and lace piece. I think the hardest thing in the world is to try and frame these pieces, because never did I get my finished projects framed with non-reflective glass. So I'm going to do my very best to try and get you in as close as I can to try and pick up as much detail. Now, as I said, this was the first piece that I got framed, so obviously I completed my Linarte piece and then got this one done, and my friend was actually stitching this when I first started, and obviously I really like this. Made no changes whatsoever to the pattern as it stood, just stitched it as it was straight from the pattern. And the beautiful thing about these designs, and one of the things that I really do like best, is the architecture of the dress, the way that they build. They're not
the most difficult pieces to stitch. I mean, don't get me wrong, they take a long time, but they are you know, quite straightforward in terms of the pattern designs and the way that everything comes together. One of the things that I particularly like is the pearl earring. That is a beautiful detail, and one of the things that I really like about this. And then obviously as you come through the dress, you can see the amount of detail that's involved, all the beading on the layers of the lace, and obviously all the beading as it comes through the flowers on the back there. So all in all, a really, really lovely design and something that I'm very proud of. However, this has not hung on my wall for a long, long time and is probably something that I will have to remedy. So the second piece I ever completed is Queen Anne's Lace, which is a Nora Corbett design. At the time when I finished this lady, I was living at home and my bedroom was decorated in lemons and greens, so it made good sense for me to pick pieces that would actually blend with the decor of the room I was in. This design was gorgeous. I particularly love the background. I mean, this sets the design off a treat. It was lovely to stitch the background, and obviously I really liked the arch shape at the top. And then moving down into her dress, absolutely lovely, and the lemons and the blues there that come out with the flowers, gorgeous. Now there's two colours of Krennic in her dress, a really strong gold throughout the yellow section, and then a paler, more like an antique gold in the blue section. And I don't really think that's going to stand out as much as it does in real life. I'm just going to zoom you in a little bit further. Again, she's got that lovely little pearl earring in that I really like. Lovely beading around her neck, the neckline of her dress, and obviously the detail as it comes through. And I really enjoyed stitching this piece an awful lot as I created her. So again, she hasn't hung on my wall for an awful long time, and you know, she's been bubble wrapped in my loft space for many years, and this is, you know, really something I should actually get back out again and put back on the wall. So this next piece was the companion piece that I hung alongside the Nora Corbett Queen Anne's Lace in my bedroom. Again, this is filmed in identical green shades, and this is Mirabillia's Rose of Sharon, and you know, this is probably one of my it's my second favourite completed design. I mean, this is just lovely. She's stitched purely in DMC. There is no Krennic or silk threads or beading in this design, but even so, the design as it stands in its simplicity is just absolutely gorgeous. And again, I really don't know why I haven't got her on my wall. I mean, she's just lovely. The arch detail, you know, of the where the roses are hanging from, just absolutely beautiful. So again, a really nice piece that was an absolute joy to stitch. Again, I have looked online when I was trying to remember which company this came from, and I did see her in blue. Somebody had stitched her dress all in blue, and it looked really nice. Not saying that the lemons and the blues don't look good, but I guess, you know, I've not ever been one for alternating the colours of the designs I choose, but again, you know, just lovely, and really I ought to do her justice and find a home for her in my home. So finally we have Mirabillia's A Mother's Love, and this is hands down my most favourite completed piece ever. The colours in this were just lovely to stitch in, and bear in mind that the completed designs I'd done at this point, I mean, both had been quite lemon and green, so to have the pinks and the unusual greens on the bottom, the amount of Krennic and beading that's gone into this is phenomenal, and I absolutely adore her. So this lady has hung on my sister's wall for many years since I completed her. When my sister gave birth to Ella, my first niece, it just made sense that, given the nature of the project, that I actually gave this to her to hang on her wall in commemoration of giving birth to her first daughter. So as you can see, beautiful beading. The Krennic's actually catching the light and shimmering. The colours through the swaddling it was just lovely to stitch. So many different colours, unusual colours as well, that I'd never ever worked in, and absolutely adore this, as you can tell. So yeah, by far my most favourite finish ever.
So before I move on, there's one more piece I want to acknowledge that I actually finished, but unfortunately I don't have the completed design because it's on Louise's wall and I haven't seen her in a while. So the piece I finished for her was the wedding, and I'll just insert a picture for that for those who don't know what that is. And I completed this for Louise and Chris, her husband, when they got married, and there was nothing I needed to change in terms of the design because Louise is blonde and I was one of her bridesmaids, and she had a little flower girl who looked not dissimilar to that little girl there on the design, and we wore blue, so the colour scheme didn't need changing. Obviously all I changed there were their names, obviously, and the date that they got married. So you know, they're probably the only two things I've ever done, so A Mother's Love and the bride piece, that I've ever really given away. And I think if you're going to do something on that scale and something quite as big and time consuming for others, you have to give it to somebody who you know is going to appreciate cross stitching. And obviously Louise is a fellow stitcher, and my sister also, who does some stitching from time to time, did appreciate that level of work that had gone into that. So so that was the other one that I'd done, which I don't have to show you. So moving on now to some of the other works that I'd done. Now this piece, now forgive me for this because I actually don't think that I was the one who put the sellotape around the edge of this fabric. It was a pattern I took from my sister. She'd started it and didn't finish it. So as far as my mind recollects, I frogged her work out because she's left-handed and her cross stitch is the opposite way to me in terms of the way that she forms her stitches. So I believe I frogged this and then started it again. And I blame her for putting the sellotape around the edge, but she probably would differ on that actually. So it is not finished. It's a UFO in terms of being uncompleted, and also I've done something really quite nasty as well, and I've had a habit of this, and all the pieces that I'd left I'd done something very similar with, and I had a habit at the time of pushing my needle through the fabric and leaving it, and what's happened, not surprisingly, is sticky, greasy little fingers all over the needles, left through the needles for many years. They've tarnished and they've actually bled out and rusted the work. So this one is in a little bit of a mess, and if anybody has ever had an experience like this where that's happened, if you please could help me out and comment in the comment section below, that would be fabulous, because obviously I'm thinking I may have to frog some of this back out, and then there's a part where I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So this is Mirabillia's Winter Queen, and I'm just going to hold her up for you. She is, you know, lovely, and in all fairness, I have completed an awful lot of her. There's obviously bits I haven't done yet that I need to come back and finish. There's obviously all of the, because this is stitched with a lot of the whisper threads, so I'm just trying to get it at an angle where it will focus properly and not do all of the blur. So there's a lot of the whisper threads to go in, which is like the fur lining of what she's wearing. But you can see one mark here of the rust, and then also it's down here on the dress itself. Now I, in all fairness, could unpick that and frog it and restitch it, but if there's anybody who's ever had a rusty needle bleed into their work after many years of it sitting there, then I'd be really grateful. You know, it's so close to completion, this one, and I've already started to put the lovely Krennic details and some of the beading. Obviously I've done most of the beading on her headdress and through her hair, so you know, it's well on the way, and in all fairness I should finish this, and it's one of them, as of many you'll see in a moment, that I will probably get around to actually finishing. But there she is, Winter Queen, really pretty. So moving on from Winter Queen, the next one, this is one I had definitely forgotten about, and again it's not that far off being finished. So it is Mirabillia's The Kiss, and again I'm going to hold it up for you so you can get a look at that. A lot of the work towards the top has been finished, and then obviously I've kind of missed a chunk of the work here and then skipped down to some of the flooring. I don't know why I've done that, but I have, and then started to put in some of the krennic and the beading details obviously on his suit and on the dress there as well. And yeah, you know, it's lovely, and it's one of those that again I think I will actually make an effort to finish, with me being probably, I would say, sorry, about halfway through that one. So again, you know, it's definitely something worth finishing that I had completely forgotten about. So there it is. The next little one, it's a Forever Friend finish, and it's just a tiny little project that I did, and I think I did this while I was on a holiday actually, and it's just cute. So it's a little Forever Friend bride, and I think what I'll do is I'll just get a little frame for this, just get it washed and framed up. It's very dirty looking, and then I've done the same thing again. You can just see here up at the top there with the dirty nasty little needle that I've left in there. So so this is like the little Forever Friend thing. So I'll just get a little frame and just put that on my craft desk. But yeah, cute. Alright then, so now we'll move on to, I think, some of the DMC designs. Now, I got quite into some of the DMC designs, and yeah, as you can see I have yet to finish one. So the first one is a DMC design, and it is Hidden Spirits, and I'll put the picture in for you now to have a look at. And this is where I've got to with this one. So you can see well over halfway in terms of completion of the design. And now I remember very well doing this one because this one was done when I was 29 and 30, and I remember it because I had spine surgery when I was 29, and this is a piece I was working on while I was recovering, having had surgery. And at the time I was on some very heavy pain medication following the spine surgery, and I'm pretty sure that I've gone wrong on it because I just remember this. I remember her dress not being quite right here, which is one of the reasons I believe I've left it and not come back to it, because when I've gone back through my patterns, you know, right from the early days, I never marked off any of my stitches on the pattern. So, you know, obviously when I was stitching, you well before anything like an iPad, so there was nothing digital when I was stitching, and at the time you just didn't have access to photocopiers and scanners. I don't even know if they existed then when I was like in my late teens, probably did, but you just didn't do it, and I never ever wanted to draw on my patterns, so I never highlighted them in any way. So obviously my eyes were so much better 20 years ago than they are now. So none of the patterns are marked, so everything that I've done, including the very early ones like the Bride and Queen Anne's Lace, there's not a mark on the patterns. In fact, I could probably give them away. You know, so they're in really good condition. So the counting side of it probably is a little bit off in some of them because of that. So what I need to do is scan and copy the patterns and then highlight where I've been and try and pick up. But this is actually lovely, and obviously the kind of image of the cat behind there, just nice. So this is one I will definitely finish, and I'm going to do this through into next year for sure. So I will get the next one up for you. So again, it's another DMC design, and it's Woodland Enchantress, and this is where I am at the minute. Now, I haven't got very far with this one, to be fair. There's quite a lot of work to still do, and again, I think I've abandoned this because I've miscounted, because again I didn't scan any of the patterns or designs at the time. So what I'm going to do it's the same, you know, I've only just done this little bit of a dress and obviously that. I will go back and rescan and you know, probably pick this up again and start it, because it is a lovely design, and it's a shame that it's not going to get finished. So I will definitely work on that one again. So I don't need to buy any more stash. I have more than enough to last me for 2 lifetimes now of stitching, so I'm going to be really good and complete this, because obviously the DMC kits, I've got all of the threads, you know, I'm not going to have to go out and buy that again. And yeah, so the next design is another DMC one, and it is the Guardian, and I love this because I love wolves, I love dogs, so anything to do with wolves and dogs I just think is gorgeous. So that's how far I've got with this one, and you can see here there the little wolfy face peeking through the trees. Now I love the colours on this design. I mean, I know you can't see much of it now, but it's just those autumn orange shades, and I don't really have a piece like this at all, so this is one I am definitely going to work on through next year and get finished, because as I said, you know, I have a real thing about wolves and dogs and animals in general. Really, I'm a real animal lover, so this is one that I'm really keen to finish. Another lovely design. So now we are on to Buttons and Bears, which is a really pretty DMC pattern, and again, you know, made a reasonable progress and start on it. I know for a fact, because again the situation with the marking of the patterns, I know that I've gone wrong on this, and I remember sitting jumping down to this is going to be the sewing machine, so jumping down to start the sewing machine, and then I think it's because something had gone wrong up here. I think he's actually off count somewhere along the line, this little chap, or that's his chest anyway, his waistcoat, and yeah, I know somewhere along the lines I've gone wrong on that. So again, the same story with the other patterns, I'm going to have to go back and redo that and just see if I can work out where exactly it is that I've actually gone off pattern a little bit. So again, I love this, I love teddy bears, and obviously I've got another teddy bear design coming up in a minute, so again, you know, one I'd love to finish. So yeah, busy girl, hey. So then we have another DMC Row of Love. I'm going to insert the pattern for you, and clearly I like this. And I say that because I bought it twice and started it twice. Can you believe it? So this is my furthest attempt. I have no idea why. I can't even remember the life of me why I've bought it twice. And then I've got a bag down here with 2 lots of kit in it. So 2 lots of thread, the floss, you know, everything that goes with it, 2 patterns. Don't even ask. So that's how far I'd got the first time. And why I've gone and bought it again, I can't even begin to imagine. I must have forgotten I had it. So I got this far the first time round, which is reasonable progress, and obviously the bulk of the first big bear done, and then started her again. So here we go. It's a bit like Groundhog Day, excuse the hanging thread, but there is her blue dress again. Whoops, sorry, blue dress again. Now, as I said, no idea why. You know, you're asking me to think back, you know, 15, 16 years ago, and I can't. So there she is again. So I've clearly stitched her blue dress. I must have a thing for her blue dress to want to do it twice, but as I said, I don't know whether or not I've gone wrong at some point. I really don't know, but yeah, I've got 2 to do. Whether or not I'll do that, I may just, probably in all fairness and with some sense, give one away, and perhaps somebody can finish off or unpick what I've done and just restart it. So I think that would probably be one of the better options. The next one is actually a DMC flower fairy, and it's a strawberry fairy, and do you know what, it's one of those that I looked at, it's so not me, and I can't believe I chose it, to be honest, and I've got quite a way through it, but it's just so not my style, and when I saw it in the box I was just like, really? I just don't know what really possessed me to pick it, but whatever it was has made me stitch 2/3 of it before I've abandoned it in the box. So as I said, I can't find the pattern. I mean, I could purchase it, I know what make it is, I know what it's called, I could repurchase it, but to be honest, this is one of them that I don't think that I would actually redo again, in all fairness. So I think this one will probably be, you know, left. This is definitely going to be a UFO and will just reside in my stitchy stash probably for forever and a day, and you know, in the future somebody may come along and decide that they want to finish that, but you know, it's not something that I ever envisage putting on my wall, and it's just one of those little anomalies that, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so bit of, I suppose you can see that in the early days, yes, I did finish things, and as I've got older I've stopped. So I've become more of a serial starter than I was, you know, got quite a few things. Everything I seem to start from about the age of 18, 19 right through to my early 20s, I did finish. And I know I did it because at the time I was living at home. I was working, but it wasn't working in the sense of what it was. I was studying. Obviously you don't know this, but I trained as a nurse and qualified as a nurse before I went on into medical sales. So you know, it's very different then, and obviously when you live at home there's less to do, you know, you don't have the amount of housework, you know, it's just life gets in the way. And you know, the amount of starts that I've done, for me it's all about constantly trying to kickstart my stitchy bug, really. And I think what happened for me at the time was because I was only working on one piece, I was just getting bored of it and then forgetting about it, coming back, going out and buying another set or pattern, and then starting again with a view to restarting my stitchy bug. And I think now I'm rotating pieces, I'm working on more than one at a time. I haven't lost that over the last few months. I haven't lost the desire to pick up my stitching and go ahead and do it. And I think it's because I've got a good amount of variety going on. So I'm hoping that that won't happen again. So there's just a couple of things. These are more recent purchases actually, and these have been bought in the last couple of years really. Well, this one hasn't so much. Actually, I'm lying. This one I started, I don't even know which way around it goes actually, I think it's that way. It's a Mirabillia piece, and it is very Idyll, or Idyll, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, and I haven't got very far with it. But it's something that, you know, I do like the design actually. You know, it's got the very ornate kind of, she's sitting on a bed and it's very ornate bed with all of the chandeliers, so there's an awful lot of treasures and speciality thread in here as well. So you know, I think I'll probably pick this one up at some point and finish her. And then I think we're just about getting to the end of it all now, pretty much, is another Mirabillia piece, and this is my Woodland Fairy. And again, excuse the hanging threads. I started her, when did I start her? Probably about 3 years ago. This was like my last round of stitching, and again, I haven't done an awful lot on her. I've got all the threads for her. There's not an awful lot of anything different in there. I'd have to have a look and see if there was any. I think there's Krennic in there, but I don't think there's any water lilies or Karen threads like that in her. So again, you know, she's nice, and I don't know why I haven't finished her really, but you know, I don't know, because you see, you look at my other ones that I've got framed, you know, my ladies, my Queen Anne's Lace and the Rose of Sharon, and they're not on my wall, and I'm just wondering whether or not it's just my taste has changed. I don't know. I mean, I'm moving more down the route of the Heaven and Earth designs now, as you can see, so maybe it's just that my idea of, you know, what I like to finish has altered slightly. Not that I'm knocking the others, I mean, clearly I like them enough to finish them, and I've bought plenty of their patterns, but you know, maybe over the years just like what I perceive as what I like maybe is just changed a little bit. So So anyway, I don't know, you know, whether or not I'll finish them or not, but definitely the DMC ones, I do like those, particularly the wolf one and the one with the tiger. So this little last one is a Humfrey's Corners piece. I'll just put the picture in for you, and that's how far I'd got with the little beach babes, and they are really cute. For some reason I've got a whole load of horrible muck on the side that I will clean up, so I'm going to probably wash the piece and then finish it. I think one of my nieces would probably like this actually. I can see, and it won't go with the rooms, but you know, I think maybe I can just finish it up for them and put it in a frame and give it to one of them as a present. But yeah, just a little sweet design that I've clearly started and almost finished and not quite got there. So yeah, we'll finish that one. So there we go. So I'll just go back to my little list of what I had on there. I do have a couple of other DMC patterns which I'll put up for you. Now I have probably put maybe 30-40 stitches into each of these, so there's no point in me holding them up for you because there's just really nothing to see. There's 2 DMC Christmas ones that I've bought in the past. I'll put the pictures in for you so you can have a look. The first one is Candy Cane Santa, and you know, I've just really loved this little design here, and I've just literally done a little bit of his jacket and beard. And then the second one is Santa's Nap, and again he's really cute laid out there with all the little animals around him, so probably again he's somebody who I'd like to come back and stitch in the future. So yeah. So some of the other bits and pieces that I found, I did say that I had quite a lot of floss. Well, I didn't. It wasn't as bad as I thought really, because clearly I've been really good in the past and I've just bought what I needed. And given the fact that a lot of the things that I've got ongoing were DMC kits, which come all kitted up with material and floss to work with, I had no fabric in stash, nothing like that, because I only bought the fabric I needed, and I only bought the floss that I needed. Now this has surprised me because, as I said, clearly I have changed and I am less like that now. So I've got 3 boxes. The first one just has a few bits and pieces in there, a couple of bits of thread as a nail file, and I've also found in the bottom here one of my little dog's claws. So this is off my first King Charles. This is one of Chloe's claws that's sitting in this little box. So obviously I'm going to keep that in there because, you know, it's just a little memento of her for when she was alive. Not sure what the project this relates to. I think this is A Mother's Love, actually, having looked at the colours, because it's got those you know, those unusual greens that I mentioned. Let's see if I can get this a bit closer for you. Those unusual greens in there that I was mentioning that I really liked working with, because you don't do much often with the greens like that. I haven't anyway. And then some of the purple shades. Yeah, you got a bit of Krennic down there because the Krennic was in her dress. So this is definitely the box that I had kitted up for A Mother's Love, the one that I gave to my sister many years ago. So that's that one. Here we have, oh, the lid's fallen off, this is a broken one. Again, I don't know what this is off. I reckon this was, I see some blues which were in the Bride. Yeah, just a mishmash again of different flosses that would need sorting. Some of the bits and pieces, again more floss behind the empty needle packet. So I've not sorted these, it's just literally as I found them, and yeah, a bit messy, but I think what I'll do is I'll you know, go back through, see what I've got in these boxes, and then just recategorise them. I've got an app where I keep everything in terms of stash listed, which I will show you in my monthly update, because I've got a couple of apps that I was talking about earlier that have been working really well, which I'll share with you. And finally, one last box. This is a real mess. You've got my drawer, a little compartment of mess there. Actually, it's got a load of arts in there and floss packaging, and there's I've clearly had some sort of biscuit or a bit of tissue and I've thrown it in there, and there is some practically empty bags of beads in there and some other DMC thread and some water lilies, some silks. And I mentioned in my first video that I'd only really ever stitched with DMC and never with the speciality threads like the water lilies. Clearly I've lied, because I've unravelled it and left it in one hell of a mess inside my box. So these I think were off the Kiss. So I've got Amethyst, which is that gorgeous purple, and this is Java, I think it is Java, with the pinks and the greys and the browns. So to be honest, I'm at a loss, but you know, I mean, it's amazing what you find, isn't it? So that's that. But that was essentially my my floss stash, which was better than I thought. Now, I do wonder whether or not I've lost things at some point over the last 20 years, but you know, it seems to ring relatively true in terms of what I've had and what I've used and what colours have gone into the design. So it probably is about right. I've just been good and I've surprised myself really. In terms of equipment, again, I've been really minimalistic. Oops, minimalistic. Just a few hoops. Nothing much in terms of the way of you know, stands and frames and things like that I've had in the past. The only one I did have was a little lap stand that I've bought, and then when I opened it up earlier I found another cross stitch, which is still on the lap frame, which is Midnight Dance, and I'll put the picture in for this one for you, but there it is, the part I've been doing still on the lap stand. So I've still got quite a lot of work to do on that, but the figures in silhouette I've got well on the way with. But yeah, I mean, this is just obviously a wooden stand which sits in a little soft case that goes on your knee and then wraps up in terms of a bag, so that would sit on your knee. You'd prop the lap stand up. It's quite padded so it would be comfortable, and then got a little zip pocket to keep all of your pattern and floss inside, which I clearly haven't used because that's all over the place inside, as you would expect from me. So yeah, so that was my other little lap stand. And then I also found two little project bags as well, which one I remember, the other one I don't. Really quite sweet, nothing too exciting. I've got this little floral one there with little cane handles, and you just put everything inside that. And then this little sweet one, little black one with some flowers on, which clearly again I haven't really used. Like that. We'll definitely use them. So that's it. So that is my trip down memory lane. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly did. Got a couple of surprises along the way, and yeah, and more surprised that I've been as good as I have, because as I said, I was expecting to have had, you know, far more floss, more patterns. So quite a contained 20 years. It's clearly something's happened to me that's made me go the other way in my mid years. So yeah, I probably should take a leaf out of my younger version's book, shouldn't I? But as I said, you know, thanks for sharing the experience with me. Thanks for coming along my trip down memory lane, and I'll have an update up for you soon. You take care. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.